Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I'm your host, Willa White, and I'm a registered Lilydale medium. This is my weekly podcast show that I do on my Facebook, which is Willa White Medium. So I encourage you to like and share and follow on my page. You'll be notified as to when I go live and my different events that I offer. So I hope that you can join me weekly at 10 a.m. And it's a show where I typically have a special guest on the show, and we talk about spiritual topics relating to spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, and more. And I'm delighted to have as my special guest today, my mother, Bonnie White. Thanks for being on the show today, Mom.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy this.
Yes.
This is a fun thing to do together.
It is very fun to do. And my mother's been on the show before, so I encourage you to look back in the archive shows of Wednesdays with Willa, which can be found also on my Facebook page. And she's a wonderful resource. Having grown up with her has been phenomenal, and I'm very lucky in both of my parents, my mother and my father, and especially because my mother is a medium as well. Yes, and yes. You've been a registered medium about as long as I have. But you really have helped shape not only my life, but my spiritual path.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
you have shaped mine too.
Yes.
Children do that for us.
Yes.
They do that.
I do feel that we choose our parents
Yeah.
for the lessons associated with them. And
That's true.
I chose really great ones. So I can be delighted and happy for myself about that.
Thank you. That's good.
And so as far as my mother's background, she is an artist in her own right, and she's done paintings all
my life.
Yeah,
basically.
And you went to college for this. Mm-hmm. It's something that you're very familiar with, and I have fond memories of my mother creating art throughout the years and sharing that amazing gift of sight, but also vision that is related to that. So there are a lot of spiritual principles that my mother has shared and shaped.
Thank you, Willa.
Yes. So as far as our topic today, we chose a very spiritual topic. It's called Stilling the Waters.
Stilling the Waters. What a beautiful name,
It is.
And should I start talking about painting?
Yes, please do.
A lot of my paintings are kind of lessons for me and for whoever I do them with. And things come up in them that I've never thought of before. So in a way, it's like you have some insight as you paint. And those of you who are artists know how good it feels to be painting and then suddenly have a revelation about what's going on in the painting. It could be the technique. It could be something spiritual, which is very often the case.
Yes.
And a lot of times I don't really know what the painting is going to be before I begin.
Right.
And
that's part of the creative process.
It just creates itself. I'm the medium, you'd say.
Yes.
Helping to create by doing what I think is right in the picture. And some of the times I'll be painting something like a landscape or something like that. And so it's already there, but I want to have a feeling of it. And many of the Impressionists talked about having that, following the light, which is what spiritualism teaches.
Absolutely.
Follow the light. It's one of the major things we think about. And then there is the whole idea of the changing light. And I'm thinking specifically of a circle that I was in. I'm thinking it was in 1967, and a medium was teaching it. Her name was Helen Long, and she started talking about the light and how the light is different on different planes. As you say, what plane am I on? The astral plane? Am I on the mental plane? What is my inner vision? What plane is it on?
What plane of existence?
What plane? And we know it's a plane of existence, even though our regular physical sight might not see it.
Yeah.
And it's not like you see it on the outside. In fact, everything you see, even if it's physical, it has to process through your eyesight, your brains, so on.
Yes.
So then she said that every plane has a different lighting.
It does.
And then we discovered that every plane does not have the lighting that a physical plane has. And my friends and I would have circles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we realized that the planet we are on now has one sun.
Mm-hmm.
Sunshine.
Yes.
Not S-O-N, but S-U-N.
Yes.
So that the lighting is generally from one side or another.
Mm-hmm.
In art school, they really teach you how to work with creating forms on a flat surface
Mm-hmm.
that looks as though it's not a flat surface.
Right. Perspective giving you realism.
And shadows and light and so on. And so the light is generally coming from one side.
Yes.
And sometimes we add a little extra light, but it's usually, even in photography classes, you'll have one side lit more than another, and that gives that feeling of dimension.
Yes.
Okay. So then we decided when we kept talking, what happens when we get messages from another plane? And this one friend of mine in particular and I, we would get very similar messages. And so we started to talk about what's the lighting on the place where we are.
Yes.
And then we discovered, and she's an artist too,
Mm-hmm.
that we were both seeing the same lighting,
Mm-hmm.
the same colorations.
So you had objective
So that was good because
confirmation.
it was so confirming to have someone else during the same meditation come up with the same idea.
Yes.
And we hadn't talked about it.
Independently of each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so there we have it. We are suddenly realized. So then we noticed there were certain colorings, and I don't know whether it's all on the same plane, but the different colorings are showing up because of some other reason or not. There's a lot to explore on the other planes.
Spiritual
There
energy.
is so much to explore. And so we both discovered one day that when we were meditating in a certain place, we both got apricot lighting. And we couldn't figure out why that was, because normally you don't really have apricot lighting all the time. Maybe a little bit at sunset or something.
Right.
But it's not like everything is appearing in a peachy or apricot way. And we discovered that that was also a place where we were inclined to be, when we were inclined to be sending healing to someone. So when we just look at each other and so we say, apricot plane. You know what I mean?
Code word.
Code word, apricot plane. So we know what that was about.
Mm-hmm.
So we developed little techniques about that. But I wanted to get back to the idea of a painting.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know who Bonnie White is, that is my mother. She is a spirit artist here at Lilydale. She does regular mediumship, but she also does something called spirit art, because she does have that extensive portrait, landscape, painting background, but she's able to merge her talents. So the mediumship and the art talents merge together, and spirit
really
uses
It's really
her.
fun.
And many times you start with your eyes closed.
Yes, I start with my eyes closed when I'm doing reading.
And a lot of the times when people are doing, half-hour reading or whatever it is, it's charcoal and visions of people's faces, and their spirit loved ones, symbols that are important to them.
You just take a
will show up.
slarp with a whole handful of charcoal across a page, and suddenly there are people there, information there. And it's always like you're stepping off the edge, because spirit has to be involved.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
there's
it's
a
just
trust.
a scribble.
Yes. And otherwise, there's a scribble. And then you also do very big, large paintings that are full on color spirit art,
like 6 by 8 feet or something.
And that takes many hours.
Yes.
Sitting with the client.
But let's get back to this picture.
But just so you know where she's coming from.
Okay. we want to get back to this picture, because I suddenly noticed it, because I've been gone for a while.
We have a prop here.
And so I saw this picture and I said, that's Willa. I did this picture of Willa sitting beside Cassadaga Lake. The middle Is the middle one? Or is it the
Yeah, the Middle Lake.
Middle Lake?
Mm-hmm.
It's the one in front of Fellowships of the Spirit.
What's currently Fellowships of the Spirit that was
I don't know.
Lazzaroni's Lakeside.
Yeah, I think it was at that. I don't know. It's quite a while
restaurant
ago.
at the time.
2006.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and she was in a state between things.
Yes, I was very much in a transition state in my life, and really on a mode of quest, as
Yes.
it were.
And, you know, we all go through times when we want to know what's coming next. And we want to not only know, but what can I do to help myself for whatever's coming next, because we don't know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so this was one of those times. And
Mhm.
so here she was, and it was kind of a sunset. Was it after sunset or before? I can't remember. But it was during that time
I don't remember.
of sunsetting. And, excuse me. I'm talking too fast.
That's okay.
Okay.
And you can see the stones here, and there
Yes.
I am.
So she
With
was
my feet in
sitting
the water.
on the stones. Sitting on the stones is a perfect place to sit,
Yes.
because stones have collected energies. They have been there for a long time.
There's an ancient energy. to
And
connect
some
with.
people
Elemental.
who do psychometry pick up things from ancient times to this time. And the kinds of things you pick up will be the things you need to pick up. Somebody else might not pick up the same things as you do in the
This is
same
true.
spot.
This is
But
true.
whatever it is, you can get a lot of comfort and stability from the rock
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
the stone. Okay.
Yes.
And she was sitting with her feet in the water, so it was still warm. If it wasn't, I can't remember whether it was fall or
Yes.
maybe before
It was
fall.
warm
summer.
enough for me to do that.
Yeah, warm enough.
And water is such a representation of
And
the
she was
unconscious.
wearing this wonderful little dress, and she just put her feet in the water, and she was sitting there, and I was going to draw the landscape. I wasn't really thinking of drawing her.
Right.
But then I saw her sitting there, and I said, she won't even know it. I am going to do this picture of a landscape with my wonderful daughter, Willa, sitting on this rock contemplating.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day, when I had come home here, and I looked at that picture, and I said, oh, it's got a little white tag. It was a white tag here. And that's the name of the picture. And sometimes I can't remember the name that I gave a picture, but this one is called Stilling the Water.
Yes.
Contemplating the separate forms of now.
Read that to them again so they have the full effect.
Stilling the water. And then I'm sure after I said stilling the water,
Mm-hmm.
what were you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the message, contemplating the separate forms of now. You know, a lot of times we think the now is just one thing that you have to be present, and then that's it.
Right. Yes. That's what most people think.
The separate forms of now is a new thought to me,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I named it Stilling the Water, Contemplating the Separate Forms of Now. Okay. Stilling the water. Most of it was pretty still, but there were some small waves coming in.
Little ripples.
Ripply waves. Nothing major, but she was able to really get into looking across that to the other side. So she's here, she's looking across basically to her future.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes.
And there's land on the other side. There's a place to be. There's even a house.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went out there now and started contemplating right in front of the Fellowships of the Spirit place, you would be in that mode of, this is a place where I can begin to get a glimpse of what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking towards stilling the water is your emotions. So you will be breathing and contemplating and leaning into the discovery of what it is about yourself that creates that space of freedom and stillness at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about being free to do this or that, which is probably part of it,
Right.
but it's also about allowing the stillness from the space to recreate and refresh you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Willa was doing.
I do try to do that when I'm in connection with nature.
Mm-hmm.
It is an opportunity for me to do that, and they're very powerful moments. And I'm very happy my mother was able to capture that moment and to find words to express.
I know, they came to me, just
Because
like the picture.
There is this understanding of having to still those emotional waters that you may be going through and trying to figure out how to navigate your life. There's amazing symbology in my mother's art. It's
the thing
incredible.
Is
and
when
deep.
you have emotions that are really firing off.
Yes.
I don't know, I'm afraid, I don't want to be blocked.
Desperate.
Even the desperate
Yes.
moment of wanting to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to breathe clear. And so then it comes to the separate forms of now. And that's kind of mysterious in a way.
It is.
So I think we have more to unravel about the now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that there is, just as there are other places in our psyche or in our inner vision or in our higher selves where the light is only coming from one direction and the dark seems to be on the other side, those are difficult times and places, but that's our world. We have the sun coming from one side, so
Yes.
we're born with that idea. And even when we turn the lights on in a house, we're always concerned about being able to find where the light is and where's a good place to be between the two things to contemplate. So those are, the light becomes kind of a form maker.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the
Yes.
form unless you have the light.
Unless you have the light.
So then you have all these separate forms within yourself that all have to be, as far as you know, you have your physical body to your emotional body. Those both are blending all the time and creating stillness or aggravation or pain or bliss, whatever. And the things that you want in there are available.
Mm-hmm.
And some people think they're not because I think it's because of that alteration between the dark and the light that we have begun to think this is this and this is that. This is this. We separate them, and even though they're in the now, we separate those forms. And so I think there are messages between when you're between the forms.
Yes.
But you have to remember that also within yourself is that higher self that then can contemplate the different planes of existence. And there are other forms, like even just on the astral plane, which is a very emotional plane.
Yes.
But it's also full of inner visions. It's also full of illusions.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to separate your reality from your illusion. And when we contemplate that and we put on somebody else, oh, this is the bad part, and you try to keep the good part, right? But that's an illusion, because in order to be able to see those things, there's a blend that happens. And then you have the colors.
There's a merging of energy that happens.
And then you're afraid, maybe, because there's a lot of fears on the astral plane.
And so you have moments of, when you're in contemplation, an opportunity to work on alignment and attunement.
That's right.
During those moments.
That's
so
right.
that you're aligning yourself for highest and best, that you are attuning yourself also to the divine and keeping at the forefront principles.
That's right.
Of higher spiritual nature.
And because we are here, the feet in the water is the grounding.
Yeah.
So, in other words, the feet in the water, it's just like there are all kinds of water birds, and some of them nest right close to the water, like the ducks. They paddle around it. But then you get the heron, the feet are in the water, the major part of its body is out, it takes flight, it does not nest near the water, it nests in a high tree. So where we nest in our lifetime, in the sense of who we are do we nest with the higher spirit? Do we nest with, some people would say, the angels?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we go down into the cave?
Well, I think there's a merging
So,
between the land, the
Yes.
sky, and the water that I have always enjoyed, that I seek out,
mhm,
and that it's almost necessary for me to live
Yeah.
near
And-
water.
that's right.
To have the combination of those elements for
In
myself.
Lilydale, we are so fortunate.
Very blessed,
We can't go
yes.
far without seeing the water.
So we have the symbols of that, but we have the deeper spiritual meanings
Yes.
associated with those, and the energy
Right.
that comes from connecting with those spaces
That's right.
and unifying them. And it's something, when you're able to merge those things in the fire, the flame of your spirit self.
Oh, yes. And then the
is
sun.
all there in the sun.
Yeah, because that sun is really important to us
Mm-hmm.
as physical beings.
And it's very life sustaining to
Mhm.
have those kinds of moments, especially when you're in transition
Yes.
or in quandary about
Yes.
how to proceed. And I think it's a beautiful painting to
And
share with people.
this painting was done before you were married to Miles,
Yes,
before you had children,
yes, yes.
and we established this kind of home that we're doing this.
Right.
this time.
Yes, yes. And so it's there's foreshadowing.
But we didn't know that.
Yes, that comes into it, and that will happen in paintings.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how art can precede those things, and also our meditations can give us insight into those things.
That's right. So
Mhm.
here you have the painting, which is actually a moment, but it takes a little longer than that to do it. To do a
Yes.
painting.
To
And-
capture it.
Yes.
Yes.
So it is a very important
So
thing.
as far as stilling the waters,
Mhm.
so there are some steps that have worked for us in all of that, and for me, a big one is connection with nature
Yes.
and quiet time without a lot of people around.
That's right.
To have a moment of solitude or away from others to commune in that way. So that's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the ways that you?
Well, of course I like that.
Yes.
But I'm communing when I do artwork.
Yes.
Some people commune when they either do music or listen to music. And even though it seems abstract in some ways, unless it has words,
Mhm.
There's something that happens within you that does bring stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And you begin to be able to see within.
Mm-hmm.
I think establishing your inner vision is part of what we do in this life.
Yes.
And not that whatever we gain in this life, we take with us
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in that respect. So I think it's a wonderful thing to do.
Absolutely.
And also, if you are agitated and not able to get to that place, follow the agitation.
Mm-hmm.
The agitation thoughts will quiet down. They're like the wind that works up the waves. And we need to have times when we can work on the agitation that comes upon us. Because it will come back.
Yes.
And there's no sense in having a tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
That just, all that does is exacerbate everybody around you, and hopefully a lot of the rocks will collect some of that and transpose it.
Yes.
But it's like bringing in that stillness, whatever it is for you.
So it's not necessarily, when it comes to having a life of peace, it doesn't mean that you avoid the times of agitation.
Exactly.
It's about entering into a state of peace regardless of what the external environment may whip up in you.
And you can solve things by dealing with your own agitation without saying it's somebody else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
If you can resolve them within yourself, it is so...
You take what's yours as personal responsibility.
Yeah.
They have theirs, you have yours.
Yes, but that when you feel agitated, you need to work with that, I think. I mean, I have really needed to work with some of that, and it's like having having a cloud,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so once it's leveled out, once you understand why you have it
Yes.
internally
Mm-hmm.
rather than externally,
Yes.
it helps.
It does.
And then the stillness can operate. And sometimes you have to get past that other.
Mhm. Yes.
I have to say that.
And so there's a stilling of the waters that happens internally, inside of you. And that's one of the wonderful benefits of meditation. When you know how to go into that relaxed state,
Mm-hmm.
it makes other things in your life easier or bearable, or how whatever term we should put to
There's
that.
a lot of unbearable stuff.
Yes,
So-
it becomes where you find a moment of grace,
Mhm.
or a place, a little piece of beauty in that
Mhm.
moment,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a quieting that occurs within you.
Mm-hmm.
And something that has been fascinating to me throughout the years, and when I read about quieting, that the rabbis did try to teach the Jews when they were in the Warsaw Ghetto, the idea of quieting so that you can have that inner vision space and go to it at any time,
Mm-hmm.
and to slow down your movements and be in mindfulness so that they could just focus on what's in front of them with peace
At the now. Yeah.
and be in a moment of now,
Mm-hmm.
instead of, oh, I'm hungry, oh,
Mhm.
I'm feeling traumatized, oh, there are all
Yeah.
these things that you can be under.
Yes, everybody
And
has
there are
times.
different turmoils that crop up in people's lives, but going into those resources of the divine, that we can really
Mhm.
find peace and still those waters. And so I think this is very valuable for
Yeah.
people. And just going back to the separate forms of now, let's just explore that for a few minutes,
Separate forms of now. Well,
because I
like
think people will be curious about
just
that.
like if you have agitation, that is a point of now.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can't think of anything except what awful thing might come next, or when the other shoe's going to fall, or whatever.
Yes.
That's a form of now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not. You have to have it. I guess I don't know why we have to have it, but we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what do we do about it? And by just starting to breathe and starting to allow your angelic form, if you want to say that, your higher self, your higher mind, whatever. I like to think angelic form.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I guess.
Angelic.
Allow that to come in, and wow, that changes the now
It does.
almost instantly.
Yeah, because there are layers of the planes of existence. There are layers of energy regarding your emotions
Mm-hmm.
and what your understanding of that moment of now is. So sometimes when you go back and think about that moment that you were having, it changes.
That's right.
It changes the now, it reshapes it. And there's Carlos Castaneda talks about it, the idea of recapitulation, when you go back to a period of time or a moment in time and reclaim energy that you felt you may have lost.
That's right. That's when it happens.
So it's a form of time traveling, the idea of reclaiming the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're different times, and yet they're all now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you can access them so that you can live your best life now.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of what we're talking about. There's a lot more we could go into detail, I'm sure, in spiritual discussion about the separate forms of now and
I
stilling the
know. I think
waters.
it could be a whole thing.
But I think that this will open people to be in a contemplative mode themselves. The sun is coming out, even though we had a little bit of snow here in Lilydale, and the sun's coming out again. There's the hope of spring, eternal,
Mm-hmm.
the eternal spring that we are tapping into. But it's what is part of the journey. You know what I'm noticing just in this moment? I'm noticing the color values of the sky there, and some of it has apricot in it.
It does, doesn't it? I didn't even think about that.
Apricot plane.
There's the apricot plane.
And you can see it a bit in the water too.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sort of happens.
Because the water, the emotions reflect the higher forms too.
And then I'm seeing almost like, was this like a beamy light thing?
I think so.
Coming down. I don't know if people can see that in this filming of it, but you can see little beams of light that come down.
I know.
Many rays of light that are showing up in the painting, right in this section here. So really,
and I think this house is nice because you know, you think, can I be settled? Where can I live? Where's my nest?
Right.
You know, where's home?
Yeah, where's home? Where's spiritual home? Where it's important for you to find that understanding of spiritual home,
right,
and what you carry with you as a soul.
So I noticed that, and I don't remember. There probably is still a house over there.
Yes, there is a house.
I gotta go by that spot really soon and check it out.
Indeed.
See if it's still there.
Well, I think it's wonderful. Anything else you wanted to share about
That's
this?
about it for me right now.
Well, I'm so glad that my mother was able to come on the show today and share this very special painting with all of us, Stilling the Waters, contemplating the separate forms of now. You can check out my mother's website, which is
Bond Spirit.
Is it Bond Spirit?
Yeah, bondspirit.com with 2 N's in the bond.
Yes, BONNSPIRIT.com. I'll make sure I put that and notate
because
it too.
All the other things were taken.
Yes, all the other things were taken.
There must be thousands of Bonnie Whites.
There must be a lot of them. So you can check things out on her website. I know I've got classes coming up with Jamestown Community College. One of them is Understanding Spiritual Energy, so we can explore more of these topics. That's on May 1st. And then on May 8th, I have messages from Spirit. And you can check that out on my website, willowhite.com, and also on my Facebook page. I do have those as posted events, and you can register for those classes because they are coming up fast, and it'll be here before you know it. So if you want to be in attendance in person with me in classes, that's your opportunity. And I have other coming events that you can check out on my website, willowhite.com. So thank you, everyone, for your kind attention today here on my Facebook page with our podcast. And thank you so much for being my guest today, Mom.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I love that you brought props.
I just now noticed that painting again after several years. You know, it's like all of a sudden it jumped off the wall to me.
That's right.
So that's good.
And sometimes those are synchronicities that occur.
Right.
So thank you, everyone, for your kind attention. And I'll see you next week, Wednesdays with Willa. It's at 10 a.m. Wednesday mornings on my Facebook page here. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.